What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today I wanted to talk about cannabis stocks in general. We'll talk about Sundial and Tilray Roar cannabis canopy growth. All those cannabis stocks are going to be discussing because there are some fairly positive developments that we've heard recently and some interesting statistics that I've been looking at today that I wanted to share with you guys. And one of the most impressive statistics that I've heard is actually that more Americans now smoke cannabis than cigarettes for the first time ever. Now, this is a pretty cool development. Obviously, cigarettes are nowhere near as popular as they once were. A lot of people realize that there are some negative health effects associated with them. And so the user base for cigarettes has been going down dramatically. But we've also seen the user base for cannabis going up in the United States. And it's fairly impressive. Now, you can see two little charts right here. The first one is Americans' cannabis use. 48% of people have tried cannabis when polled. 16% use it regularly. Now, opposed to cigarettes, you can see that number has been declining for decades, and currently we're sitting at around 11% of Americans who currently use cigarettes. So less than the 16%, far less than the 16% actually. And that's very beneficial to cannabis stocks, especially considering the fact that cannabis is a federally illegal substance, right? And the fact that more people are using that than are using cigarettes, even while it's illegal, and while there is still some stigma against it, while there is still a large group of people who oppose the use of cigarettes and or of cannabis and think that it's immoral or that it shouldn't be happening or that it should be illegal, it's very impressive, and it bodes very well for the future of the cannabis space, especially considering the fact that when this does become legal, it's likely not going to be nearly as stigmatized. And the growth that we could see in this area could be pretty dramatic. And there are a couple of other interesting things regarding this subject that I found when pining through a couple of articles. Now, this chart right here shows Americans' use of alcoholic beverages, okay? And you can see that about 67% of people use alcohol occasionally. That's what this poll is showing. 45% have used alcohol in the past week, 67% used occasionally. Now, what cannabis is doing actually to compete with this is creating cannabis drinks that are actually very similar to beers. And in fact, beer companies are creating their own cannabis drinks, not just CBD drinks, but actual THC drinks. And these are companies that you guys have almost certainly heard of, like Pabst Blue Ribbon and Constellation, right? Big name companies are doing this. And it bodes very well for the potential future of the cannabis space when you can look back and see that 67% of people consume alcohol, and that these companies are coming out with cannabis, essentially versions of alcohol. They've given some stats on what these drinks contain, and they say that each 12-ounce drink contains about 10 milligrams of THC, which the company says, and this is a quote, is the right amount to have a good time. Now, my personal opinion on this, right, is I actually think it could be beneficial not just for the companies, but also for the consumers to lower the amount of THC in these drinks. Because when you think about what people are doing, when they go out to a bar with their friends and they're having some drinks, they typically don't just have one beer, right? They're maybe there for a couple of hours and they have two, three, four, maybe five. And it would create an opportunity for cannabis to really take over that area, or at least to be an alternative to some people if they lowered the amount of THC in these drinks so that people could do the same. Instead of just having one drink and then the company sells one bottle of beer per person, if they could lower this to maybe 2.5 milligrams, and then over the course of the night, people can sip on it and have maybe, 4 or 5 drinks over the course of several hours and get the same effect just spread out over a longer period of time. And, they would obviously be buying more drinks, but I think that's something people would be happy to do in order to have the same kind of environment that alcohol allows for. Because at the end of the day, a bottle of beer or a can of beer doesn't really have that much alcohol in it, and people do tend to drink more than one. And it's beneficial, for everyone involved, except, the wallets of the consumers. Obviously, they'll be spending a little bit more. But it is beneficial for the companies, at least, to have a slightly less potent product that they could sell to consumers multiple times throughout the course of any given night. That's just my opinion on it. And we'll see how this space develops. Obviously, we've had some setbacks in the Senate. Unfortunately, it's looking like we won't be seeing full-on legalization over the course of the next couple of months. That's not the best thing to hear, but that's just the situation we're looking at. And, we've got a quote from Jeff Bezos where he talks about innovation, and a lot of these cannabis areas are innovative areas. And he says, I believe you have to be willing to be misunderstood if you're going to innovate. And that is a situation that a lot of cannabis companies are dealing with, right? A lot of those companies are very misunderstood. A lot of people, like I said before, do actually oppose the legalization of cannabis. Although we'd like to think it's everyone who is in favor of legalization, there are large swaths of people who do oppose the legalization of it. And it is an area where a lot of investors in the space and a lot of business owners in the space are being misunderstood. But you have to do that in order to really innovate and to create real change. And that's something that I hope to see over the next couple of months and years as we can hopefully get to a place where there are just more freedoms and more options for people out there. And that's my hope. Obviously, guys, none of this is financial advice. I just wanted to share some cool things with you that I found over the course of the day regarding cannabis and cannabis stocks like Sundial and Tilray. Obviously, they could be benefiting from this in the future when legalization does hit, if we do see a lot of people adopting it and using it potentially in place of alcohol, potentially in place of cigarettes. There's all kinds of potential situations where people could be using it. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. If you guys appreciated that, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.